Hi there, welcome to the Presgrove Case. Today we're focusing on the important theme of call dumps, phone calls, communication within the case and beyond. So a particular post on Facebook which was regarded as somewhat interesting or important. I want to read it out today, analyse it, break it down bit by bit, check the reactions, responses by people in the comments. And oh man, oh my God, we're like resting all over again on Facebook. Well, it's important to highlight other people's points, because I need to mention it very quickly because this is yet another observation by Warlike Raf. It's that whilst there needs to be platforms at times which give people a voice, normally it can be the victims' families, friends and beyond to spread awareness and reach out maybe for help or spread news and updates, whilst other people can't quite reach it or the police are incompetent to do so themselves. No press conferences, no press releases, etc. You could apply the same level of importance and focus to members of the general public too. A random person on Facebook that might make an important point or an observation or a finding, it could get forgotten about with time. But someone like me that ends up seeing it, reading it and presenting it in a video, then more people can see it themselves, outwards, outside of Facebook. So, all under control. Welcome to anyone that is currently watching this live premiere. Share your thoughts, reactions and beyond in the chat box on the right hand side of the screen. Later, or if you're catching up on this video, be sure to drop a comment down below because that will remain and I can always respond back to it. And it will help with spreading awareness of this video and beyond, keeping the case alive. If you're interested in recent coverage by me, you've missed out on some of my previous videos, such as last night, you'll locate it top right up there where the I symbol is. Click on that, you get the drop down box and the full playlist. If you do want to support this channel, below in the comment section, pinned message will be links provided by me if you want to go off in certain areas. With that being said, the direction of today's video is we're focusing in on the Facebook post first of all, see what the reactions are and if it's worth expanding on. As for additional video ideas, they're present, I've noted them down and I will apply soon, so there'll be other videos to come in slightly more of a creative way. So just be on the lookout for them. Without further ado, let's begin this focus today. Here we are. This was from the case discussion group page one day ago by Andrea Jubrov. It reads, please read the entire post. This was posted on another page, but I thought it was great information. Right, what page was that? Who knows? Could be Sofa Sleuth, could be Army. You never know at this point. Just tripod. And we'll begin reading. There seems to be a fair bit. We'll do it bit by bit. Let's talk about the phone dumps and their significance within the case. A phone dump is when all of the call logs, messages, photos, emails, browser history, location, data, and anything else stored on a cell phone or smartphone is downloaded. This allows LE to have a detailed analysis of a phone's activity, which can be critical in investigations. However, due to the amount of data collected, analyzing and sorting through this information can take a lot of time, possibly contributing to the length of Noah's case. It would make sense. In this investigation, Jack, Carter and Avery turned over their phones to law enforcement within the first day, along with passwords to their social media accounts. Caleb also stated that he turned over his phone, and it has been said that Caden has had his phone analysed as well, although much more recently. As we've heard, we'll talk about that a bit later. By having access to these devices early on, investigators have been able to analyze the location data, communications, and photos to look for inconsistencies or evidence of tampering. You can easily change the metadata, including the date and time on a picture. However, hiding these changes from a digital forensic expert is much harder. To truly hide a change, you'd need to edit every place the photo is saved on the phone, in backups, and on any synced devices. This would require advanced skills and tools, and even then, forensic experts can often spot small signs of tampering. Phones keep records of when files are created, edited, or accessed, and these logs may not align with altered timestamps. Additionally, services like Google Photos or iCloud often back up original versions of photos, preventing the true timestamps and other unaltered metadata. Even if someone attempts to change metadata across all instances, inconsistencies can still be detected in the file sequencing, the device logs, or the environmental conditions depicted in the photo. One piece of evidence that has been discussed at length is a Snapchat photo reportedly showing Mikey Lair asleep on a bed with two of the girls laughing and taking pictures. The photo's timestamp reads 5:27 a.m. on the morning Noah was found, leading many to believe the date and time may have been altered since Caden Pressey stated Mikey Lair was with him at the scene of Noah's death at the time and the girls were crying when they came back. If this photo's metadata, I keep saying metadata, that's better, was manipulated, investigators would rely on phone dumps to uncover the truth by examining the photo sequencing and other related logs. For example, they could determine whether the photo was truly taken at 5:27 a.m. or if the timestamp was changed, whether the location data matches where the photo was claimed to have been taken, and whether other photos or activities contradict the sequence of events. Since LE had early access to the phones, it would be stupid for anyone to post an altered date or time on a photo such as Snapchat pic at this point in time, fair enough, since it's seriously doubtful any of the kids were skilled enough to fool a digital forensic expert. The information from phones shows everyone they're truly innocent. Okay, there's a lot to take in there. What I want to do is actually show my face right now and try and analyse. In no particular order, I just want to give my reaction to that post, what I saw. It was written fairly well. I'm no expert when it comes to all that, especially with things being traced and tracked and police and authorities getting a hold of bits and bobs. But I've got a tiny bit of experience I can share with you in regards to a previous case and how a particular phone was handled with and the uncertainty of what would be remaining on it or not and what it revealed with time. And I'll do that in just a bit in relation to the Dylan Rounds case. This is the important thing. This is what can be helpful. The more cases you cover over time, you can start establishing certain patterns and trends, but also you'll have a bit more knowledge than what you did when you first started off. So it makes it a bit easier to understand and get a grip of. But in fairness, this case is unique as in the amount of people caught up within it all. Whether lots of people are directly involved or indirectly involved, or it's one big mess up, either way, there's a lot of names and words to them which you've got to try and remember, and the initials as well. And with each name you have to try and remember, and the initials as well, and differentiate from one another. That takes time, doesn't it? Doing interviews, like such as authorities and even like partners in true crime, can take time. Getting through each person one by one, going in deep, but then also trying to make the time for it to work. So the concept of time is very important, and with this particular case, the timing of Noah's death important, the timing of the shower important, the timing of supposed teabagging important, and we don't need to do another demonstration regarding that because I think it could be a bit compromising. So when you take into mind time and also the theme of missing time, and time not quite adding up, it just slows everything down. It's like a microcosm in a way, literally and figuratively speaking. The timing in regards to the phones, when, where they were used, when and where they may have pinged at, when and where timestamps within the phone itself of photos, videos and media and beyond. And then you've got the uncertainty and people who strongly believe that phones were factory reset, but do we have the actual hard evidence and proof of that? I don't know if that's a silly question, but a lot of people that push that idea of phones being factory reset are by people who weren't at the party. What I would say as a thumbs up in terms of I understand would be if you got someone like Justin Roy that says what he says based on what people have told him. And I know that sounds bad, and you could say it's hearsay, but I mean in terms of what his family of family have said, who actually physically, verbally, auditory, visually witnessed at the party of people factory resetting their phones. then you could say, okay, fair enough. But you'd have to take that same level of understanding with the opposition as well, providing it's genuine, where witnesses reach out to family of family, friends of friends, BBC, SL, SS, and beyond. Okay? It's quicker doing the initials. If you didn't know who's who there, Brooke Bounds-Carter, Sarah Long, Sarah Smith, biological mother to Jack Newton, Rosa Newton, the stepmother, who's now with Caleb Newton. So, wow, I'm actually getting there with some of the names and the different connections with people, but it takes time. Sometimes that repetitiveness is needed. For others, it's boring, but for one, it's the way to master something, whether that be visual, auditory, learning, or both at the same time. But in terms of the phones, more than one, how many phones are we talking about, and how many need to be analysed? Every single one? That would be my first question, before we even get to the timestamps and whether that material is still available or not to this day. At some point, you had supposedly 40 party goers present at the party. Is that true, or could it be an exaggeration? There might be other themes and elements within this case which have been slightly exaggerated. I mean, the talk about people being drunk. How drunk, really? Really bad? Or was it a little bit underwhelming? Because from the party footage of what we saw, I'm no expert. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't take alcohol. It's a little sip once a year. But at the end of the day, I couldn't really tell if they were really drunk or not. It just seemed somewhat normal in my mind. And did it to you? Because if so, and how it's been worded by other people, it's been blown out of proportion now. So could it be blown out of proportion with who could be responsible? Could it be blown out of proportion with what actual timestamps exist and what secret videos exist out there? Could it be blown out of proportion in regards to the wording and language, what people use, persuasive language, emotional language, which triggers a responsive reaction from others in a over-the-top, overstimulated way? That's possibly the case. So when you're overstimulated and when it's underwhelming at the end of the day, it's like, oh, and then it has a greater impact, but in a negative way. So there's a lot of components to it, even before you get into the main discussions. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is so we're not just looking at a static screen. I mean, I could throw some little bits and bobs up front, but just keep it raw. I think the rawness is a little bit better. If you didn't know, the reason why I did look at static screens, so then I could read it word for word, re-quote it, and analyse the language up close. And maybe for some very important official post, I'll continue with that. But the looser dialogue and conversations, I'll just do it like this. And then you can tell me if this is better or the original strategy. Because something like this, you can just simply listen to whilst you get on with other things, but there is a little bit more movement because I'm actually here moving my mouth and my head, like bobblehead. I think at one point, well, actually, no, I think I called someone else Mr. Bobblehead. Don't know who that was, but that was in the past. But yeah, in terms of, overestimating, underestimating, exaggerating, going over the top or making it underwhelming, does that apply to the phone situation? At the end of the day, when it comes to this case, first question, how many people needed to be interviewed in this case? As for witnesses, people of interest, what qualifies it exactly? Well, when I look back to the Dylan Rounds case, what qualified it was, geographically speaking, proximity to the victim at the time of the person's disappearance / or death. Connection based, as in, do you know this individual to an extent or somewhat well? That's another qualifying point. And then I think there might have been a third or fourth one, which I've probably forgotten about. Timing of when you may have been present at the time of when the bad thing happened. And did you see anything else? Do you have any information or knowledge of somebody else that may know something that qualifies as a person of interest? Do you know of anything from the past as well, which could explain as to what's happened now? These are factors and elements of what can consider you as a person of interest. I don't know if it correlates from Dylan Round's case to this one in particular. I would hope so. So with that being in mind, basically you could argue and say anyone that was a friend to Noah Presgrove or knew him to some extent and was in the proximity of him at the party house would be considered a person of interest. But this party took place over 4 days, right? From Friday to Monday. But not everybody attended every single day. Some people left earlier. Some people arrived later, as in the time on the day, but also on the day itself. Those that were there Friday, Caden Pressey, I don't bloody know, because it's a yes and it's a no, from his private interview to his public interview. I don't know. But who else was there Friday? Obviously, Avery, Carter, Logan, because they lived there at the time. Jack Newton, supposedly, would make sense if you're going on down early and with being, to an extent, in a relationship with Carter at the time, staying over, helping out possibly, planning the party. I don't know, when you look at the party itself, there wasn't like big decorations, because that's the other interesting thing. I know Cleo in the past talked about a birthday cake. Why does that matter? Well, it's the theme of, are you having this 4-day party to celebrate your birthday because it's all about yourself and you like that attention, but not quite in a complete negative way? Or is the party to celebrate other things? Because the birthday, the actual day of the birthday, was on Labor Day, if I'm correct in saying. But the actual party itself started days before on a Friday. So it's probably, right, because it's coming to the weekends, even though my birthday is the next week, going into boring Monday, or here we go all over again, but you've got Labor Day anyway, so I guess people aren't working, or some people wouldn't be, or some people don't have to go to school, whatever, because it's like a bank holiday or something. So you got Friday to Monday anyway, you got 4 days possibly off, not having to do anything, so you might as well tie it all together and have a big celebration. And yet, visually, it looked bloody casual. There might have been a handful of people there on and off, but visually, it looked a bit underwhelming. Okay, the only point that stood out, as in, okay, besides it being a party, but a birthday party, was that banner going down, the pink one, which probably said birthday girl. Fair enough. But was there any birthday cake? Don't know. Noah Presgrove on the table with Jack licking the cream up. Sounds a bit out of context, but there's a video out there, and it's been shown on my channel in the past if you find it somewhere. Didn't see any birthday cakes. Didn't see any birthday balloons. Didn't really see anything. Obviously, everybody celebrates birthdays differently, and depending what age you are as well, that can differ. But it just seemed like a typical everyday or get-together type party, but that might just be how they do things. As for presents or gifts, didn't see any mention of that. I don't know. Any new devices, any new technology, clothing, trying on new clothing. You know, like what you might do when it comes to a celebration or time, you might wear things, you might try stuff in the moment or afterwards to feel good, to show off, or just have a good time, whatever. I'm no expert. But yeah, these other side elements you got to look into. In terms of the phones, in terms of the people and who arrived on the different days, Saturday being when Noah finally came on down for the first time, Sunday being when Mikey Lair supposedly came on down for the first time, it's kind of spread out. But then someone like Shandy was only there on a Saturday and did not return back after. Someone like Stephanie Milan arrived, I don't know on what day, I don't know. But they returned back to the party house on Monday, as in around 6:30 from Caden's timeline onwards. Okay? So Stephanie being present at least there Sunday night at, I think, 10:40 p.m. from Caden Pressey's video, recording Georgia in the background to reassure Alicia, the mom, that Georgia is okay, that her niece is okay. You remember? Then to the left in the corner, you supposedly had Jasmine Milan. I thought it was a man because it was quite big. I don't mean that in a bad way, okay? It was just like quite filled out. I thought it was like, with the big shoulders, okay? Shit, some people are going to misinterpret that. And then nearby, well, that's if it is Jasmine Milan, it could be someone else, who knows. But then nearby, over the shoulder, you had another person, and then behind you had another person. And out of one of the three, it was Stephanie Milan. But it's interesting how some people in the background were able to identify that when someone like myself couldn't. Maybe if you know a familiar face, you can. But that quality video, what we saw, was shit, wasn't it? So for some people to be able to identify that, oh yes, specifically in that corner of the room, as blurry as it is, that is Stephanie Milan. How do you know exactly? Is it because there is other video footage, clearer, which shows the person? If you could distinguish it in terms of the clothing of someone, or someone having a ponytail, long hair or short hair, you might be able to do that. Georgia, a good example. Yes, it is a bit blurry, bit more identifiable, distinguishable, and more so by the fact of the shirt or top that she's wearing, like a white longish one. Okay, they stand out. Noah Presgrove, shirtless, but black shorts, and the build of him stands out. Can be a blurry photo, but you can still, pick up on who that individual is. Even Jack Newton to an extent because of the colour of his hat, I believe. Patterns and themes like that, where it stands out. Avery, when that birthday banner was on, which was Monday morning at 1:05 a.m. Okay, so that's what I need to acknowledge, okay? The party may have started Friday, but the actual birthday itself started Monday, because that's supposedly the day of a birthday. That might be why you didn't see all the banners, balloons, and bits and bobs like that, as in on Saturday or Sunday recorded footage, right? How much of recorded video footage and photos are present from Monday onwards? Caden Pressey filming outside, Brylan slapping Noah at 1:05 a.m. Monday morning, with Avery in the background with the birthday banner, speaking to Isaac Rojas. And then at 1:50 a.m, supposedly, you got Jack Newton and Noah in the bathroom. So we don't get to see the other different rooms, the living room, the dining thing, from at least what I'm aware of, which may or may not show birthday props, items, presents. I don't know. If anyone can fill it in, you can below in the comment section. I said everyone celebrates differently, but just get an idea of the order and timing of stuff and the atmosphere, because people did say, whilst you arrange the videos, all the videos, if possible, in the correct order, it might not reveal anything else, but it could at least highlight the change of mood, attitude, the atmosphere from day to day. How did it change? Did it get worse, better, or was it interchangeable with time? And to link back to the amount of people present from Friday to Monday, how many of those people would need to be interviewed, and how many of those people's phones would need to be analysed? That's what I want to refer to. If it's the true 40 people, Friday to Monday, or Friday to Saturday, or Saturday alone, anytime anyone was present at the party and their phones needed to be analysed and checked, 40 at least. Would that take a very long time? Possibly. To refer back to the Dylan Rounds case, one victim, one individual, two phones for most part of it. The killer's phone, James Brenner, which we never saw publicly at the time, unless it was revealed in the court documents, but that was long gone, case resolved and whatnot. And then the victim's phone, Dylan Rounds himself. And in terms of the information that was revealed, it was not shown physically immediately, but it was passed on by the family as for phone pings and timestamps. Some of the general public were a little problematic, got a bit petty, and it got a bit messy. But I stuck with it. I used those phone pings and timestamps, mapped it out on Google Earth, and it was perfect. As for the theories, the concepts, almost perfect with some. In terms of me, because I was the first and only one at the time to reveal the location of where Dylan Round's body was found at, by some tips, but more so by me working it out and guessing myself. All under control, even in Lucin, Utah. I did that. not everybody saw. Fast forward onwards, big YouTube channels decide to cover it. Here's the location 10 months later. Bitch, please, Warlight Ref already covered it, documented on my channel with the original timestamp date of when it was uploaded. Exactly. Okay? So once again, timing is important. The stamps, the dates, unaltered, are important. And at least to my knowledge, when it comes to YouTube, you can't be altering that. Exactly. Even if you edit a video, even if you take it down there and like privatize it and then make it public again, it does not change the original date. It's locked in. The only way you can manipulate it visually, but not internally, would be inspect element on screen, go into the text or files and make adjustments. I did it once on fantasy football, Premier League. People don't know soccer, okay? And I looked at my points and said, oh, I've only got like 50 points. And then I changed it to 1,000 as a joke. And someone believed it. And that was it. It didn't alter anything. It didn't physically mess anything up in the background for anyone. It was just a visual joke. And that was it. And I guess the same can be done in that extent with manipulating it. But internally, changing and making adjustments could be a bit harder and restrictive in some areas. How it's been suggested here within this particular case, that times and dates can be altered and changed, but I'm no expert. Is there a difference between you have a photo, an original one, original time, date and stamp of when you took it on your phone? You made adjustments in the gallery and changed the file details, the name of the file, the timestamp of the file, and then you transferred it onto the computer. You went onto the files on the computer and you inspected the properties of that particular photo or video. Would it show the original timestamp, the true one, or that altered one from the phone? Because someone was telling me, oh, it will show the normal time. But I think that might not be the case. It just feels like if you do have experts out there, right, in the authoritative roles for the right reasons, or darker ones, underground, rogue agents, whatever you want to refer to them as. If they want to find you, or they want to find details, they will. Doesn't matter if you try and delete or hide this, they will find it. And that can apply to different things. So you can try and be private and keep private, but if people really want something, they'll probably get it. So there's that to take in mind. So when referring back to the Dylan Rounds case of one device, what condition was the device in? Where was the phone found? Obviously, it's different to the Noah Presgrove one, but you understand the possible worry, concern regarding the condition it's in and what's still on it, whether it was manipulated, altered with, damaged, and more. So I'll get to that in just a second. As with the Noah Presgrove case, the party situation, little question. If there was 40 people at some point or in total that attended the party, whether that be the highest peak number on a certain day or time, or just in general for the amount of people from Friday to Saturday that arrived, not including returning back, as a total number as 40 people, does that mean 40 people are persons of interest? Or do you break it down and say anyone there from Saturday onwards, because that's the first day that Noah arrived on. Anyone that was there on Friday who did not return back after is not a person of interest, such as Shandy. Is that correct? Who else does that apply to? These are questions. You can give answers below or share your opinions at least. If it's not Saturday, I don't think you just focus all in on Sunday then. I would think if it's not Saturday, then it would have to be Monday alone. As in, it's a time of when Noah is around and other people are. So witnessing Noah and vice versa up to a certain point in time. But furthermore, it being relevant and ticking off the box as in being in proximity of the victim, but also at the time or close to the bad event, the death of Noah. And ticking the box as in you know Noah to an extent. But then again, some of those boxes may not be ticked if it turns out that, let's just say, Texas boys do they really know Noah Presgrove? They might be friends to Avery, but do they know Noah? Because if you look at it this way, there's been a bit of a debacle there in terms of friends of friends. That people have said that Carter Combs claimed that she didn't know who Noah was or didn't really know him much. But then I think I don't want to mess this up. But then from another perspective, there was like a situation where one another didn't know each other. Not in terms of Noah, but like other party goers, they didn't really know each other. And yet after all that time, you thought they would. Now, as a little side detail to link on with that, don't go all in on it, okay? Because I'm just using my memory and it might not be good enough. But something tells me, I'm sure I heard Caden Pressey mention elsewhere that he didn't really know or was friends with Avery or Carter. He never met them up until arriving at the party for the first time. That might have been mentioned on a particular interview, okay? Just maybe remember that. And the reason why it's weird is kind of to an extent. Now, not enough context was given, fair enough, but Caden Pressey had said in the past, whenever that was, years ago, he met up with Noah, met up with Jack, was introduced to Noah through Jack because Caden was best friends with Jack at some point, and Jack introduced Noah, which was Jack's best friend to Noah, to Caden, right? And hung out in car parks, drunk alcohol, hung out, close community. Right. Who else? What other people? Well, you'd assume Isaac, you would assume Brylan, you would assume Avery, Carter, maybe Logan. And you know why I mentioned some of those points and why I assume is because Caden Pressey said in the Partners in True Crime interview, if I'm correct in saying, that when it came to Sunday morning breakfast time, that when they headed out to Waurika, a gas station of some sort to get breakfast, all close friends, long-time friends. How can you be close, long-time friends all hanging out together when in another interview, Caden Pressey refers to Carter and Avery and maybe Logan as, I've never seen those people before. It was my first time seeing them when going to the party. What? Now, I said I'm using my memory. It might not be the best, but does anyone in the background, do you remember what I've just said? Or is it the same as what you heard, possibly? I don't know if Robbie Taylor or maybe someone else. Is it a major issue? No, but, you know, if people were to question Carter Combs for saying, I didn't even really know who Noah Presgrove was. Yes, there is suspicion there. But then if other partygoers are saying, I've never even met these people before up until I got to the party and then I was introduced. What, so you suddenly became friends in a matter of seconds? Or were you friends before that? But then Jack Newton as well, from what Robin Smith, Ashley Chadwick said, well, no, actually, they've been dating for months. But Jack says, oh, I was with Carter for like 2 weeks before the party. Why is it so difficult to understand? It's not just timestamps, is it, that cross over and switch and change? It's relationship status, friendship status. When did people meet? When did people know one another? Oh, it was about 4, 5, 6, 10 years ago. Oh, no, but by the way, actually, it's when I first arrived at the party, and that's when I suddenly became friends with them. How can you get that so mixed up? What? What's going on there? Yeah, you can get discrepancies, but then you get massive time differences. Are we going into a different universe? We're going to start time traveling? I don't know. It just gets a little bit messy. But once again, it's still to do with the theme of timing of when people met up, knew one another. But, you know, like Carter Combs. Well, if Carter Combs didn't really know who Noah Presgrove was, supposedly, then why would you be giving a stranger access to the bathroom, which, you know, you kind of own because you live there, and you just have to be in the same small room as them whilst they're unclothed, and you're holding them to an extent to make sure that they stand up. With a stranger, would you normally do that to a stranger? Huh? When you are in a relationship with somebody else? Maybe people do things differently over there. Who knows? But do we have proof? Do we have like a screenshot? Because I'm just relaying what others have said. Let me just make that clear in regards to Carter saying this or that. Is there a screenshot of Carter stating, I don't even know who Noah is. I don't really know him much. Does anyone have a photo of that statement or response? Because if someone does, it can go a long way. So, and that applies to other situations as well. Referring back to the phone and the timing of, who does it qualify? If it's Monday, then how many people would it be in total? 10 to 15, I believe, if you count it, 10 to 15 people still present at the party. What named individuals would that include? Well, let me try and count it on the spot. You got Noah, you got Jack. I mean, when they normally say Sunday night, I think there was 10 to 15. No, because this is what the problem is. There's that reference of there was 40 people at the party Sunday night, as mentioned by Caden and others, and possibly Justin Roy too. But then in the private police 2024 June interview with Ken Pressey, he said, no, it was actually Friday and Saturday there was 40 people. The more people present at the party on an earlier day, the more names possibly ticked off the list or crossed out. I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with that to some extent. I mean, Shandy, if she was only there Saturday, was her phone analysed? Was she ever questioned or interviewed? A lot may have gone on in the background, and I might be questioning a lot, but that's just because on the surface level publicly, there's not enough answers. But just to reiterate one thing, and it's a bit off subject, but I saw a comment in the chat by Brooke Bounds Carter last night, or at some point saying, well, what's the point even talking about timestamps? What's the point about even trying to give context behind it when people won't even accept it or call it BS? It's tiring. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I think what humans need to understand is, at least in this setting and environment, war like RAF arrived June 1st, 2024, I think. I think that's true. I came to this case June 1st. I've not been around that long. So if there was like important discussions in the past before that, I wouldn't have been aware of. And when just starting off at the time, I wouldn't have been going all deep into researching either, because I'm trying to get a sense of things without being too overwhelming as well. So there's a range of different things to consider. So like if you want to give timestamps and not be messing about, you can if you want, such as in the chat, in the comment section. It's already happened, such as with the 1:50 a.m. timestamp, something I've never heard of before at the time. I thought it was 1:40. Well, it ended up changing to 1:50. The 1:30 a.m. timestamp of when I thought that's when Caden Pressey recorded Brylan slapping Noah. The time stamp of 1:30, which Caden said himself, and that's why I relayed it. So when people say that I'm wrong, no, I'm not. I'm reiterating, being consistent with what the horse's mouth bloody said at the time, okay? But it eventually changed from 1:30 to 1:05 a.m. and it was backed up with a screenshot of the gallery, of the timestamp, the date, the year of that footage. I still don't, do you know what? If I still haven't shown it already, okay, I'll get it up another time, okay? I'll maybe do it in the next video. It might only be like 2 minutes long, but quite important, isn't it? Because it's okay, keep referring to a lot of stuff, but if you're not showing it, that's not good enough. And I do try and show it, but sometimes it means there's like more editing and more layers and more time and it gets on a bit. So I end up narrating it, you know, like with those interviews and how I narrate and pass on notes. But it may not be as visual enough, so maybe as a standalone video, that's what I need to do. I'll try and do that with the screenshot, the photo. Because the other factor, what you need to understand when it comes to these phones and devices, which most of the videos, recordings, photos were taken on, what's the ratio and proportion of photos to videos in total? Does anyone actually know collectively how many photos and videos were taken over the course of the party weekend or on the particular day of Monday, September 4th? Could you break it down there? Or is that impossible on a public level and only police would truly know? But do police have all the phones? As for the reference to the Facebook post of, people handing the phones in early and maybe cooperating, fair enough. People cooperate early on because they care, because they're innocent and they want to prove it. Or if they're guilty, they might want to be proactive and talkative and be helpful so it makes them look less suspicious as if they're not, hiding anything. I get that. Caden Pressey, somehow an exception that everybody had their phones accepted, but when Caden Pressey tried, he was rejected a few times and it was delayed. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure Justin Roy had a post where it said it wasn't just Caden Pressey, it was some other people and their phones that they were held back on or delayed when it came to interviews. I don't know if that's down to a reference to some of his family members being interviewed at a later point, or it could be other partygoers. It was quite vague. I'm sure it was in recent time, to my memory, that besides Caden Pressey, there was a couple of others that were messed about with when it came to interviews and things being delayed or dragged out. So maybe it wasn't directly to do with the phones, but at least the interview part with the police. So why would there be delays and messing about with some, but not other people? Is it selective? Is it biased within? Who knows? You can let me know your thoughts below. But we're specifically talking about a phone from a witness, person of interest that was at the party, who knew Noah to an extent, who was in the presence of Noah on the key days leading up to towards the end. Not literally, but close to, because of Caden going to sleep and missing out on things after that. But before that, Noah wanting a lift and reaching out to Caden and not being successful. That Caden's phone could be of great value, and especially beyond that. So fast forward on, the police have got Caden's phone, or it has been analysed, and from what Alicia has said, that the phone data links in and reinforces Caden Pressey's timeline, where you could say, hallelujah, that's it, case closed, done. It makes things a lot simple, doesn't it? Well, it might for them, if they've seen it themselves. But for the general public that haven't seen that phone data or the official phone pings, it's hard to trust. Or it might be hard to go all in on it, just in case people don't want to get burned or end up being deceived in the future. Or there's a counterpoint in the future which turns everything upside down, so people want to be alert and ready for if it does happen. But it would be weird, and it is weird if it is true that Caden Pressey's phone was rejected multiple times early on, but the police didn't want it. Oh, the police doesn't want evidence from you. That's unprofessional. But does it benefit you? Is that a good sign? Well, if you've got evidence to prove your innocence and the police aren't willing to take it, look into it, well, then that's bad. Because you could get the blame for it, and because the evidence isn't being taken serious enough at the time or completely discredited, discounted, then you've got nothing to stand on or defend yourself. So eventually it leads to you being blamed, you can't defend yourself, and you might get arrested. That's not a good outcome, or by the attitude of the police. But if you were guilty or responsible and the police are like, no, we don't want your info, we don't want you to talk, we don't want anything from you, we're going to turn a blind eye, well, that will obviously benefit you. You could say, shit, so which way is that going for Caden Pressey then? Well, you can look at it any way you want. It seems to come across more innocent. So as in being innocent, supposedly, even if some say he might be wrong with times or he's made a mistake, if he is innocent, Caden Pressey, and the police don't want anything to do with him, or, well, they did eventually, but they didn't at the time, you can understand that pressure, that feeling, maybe feeling nervous and thinking, shit, I need to get my word out. I need to reach out, because if I don't, it'll be on my mind and it could backfire on me in the future if the blame is pointed my way and the evidence isn't there anymore or it can't be used. So yeah, it was important. The phone finally taken in supposedly reinforces Caden's timeline as correct. I'm assuming that the same for all the other partygoers. Their phones taken in, cooperating with police. their timelines, their phone data matches up with their timestamps. Does it match up with Jack's as well? Because a lot's mentioned about Caden Pressey's phone and his phone data matching up with his timeline and it all being correct from 5:15 onwards and so on. Okay. How does that translate or compare or contrast to Jack Newton's phone? Because that's the next busy, important person who may have been here, there, everywhere, or not many places at all, if asleep all the way through. There is clear conflict between Caden Pressey's timeline and phone data, I'm guessing, with Jack Newton's. It doesn't quite gel well together at all, does it? There's conflict, major conflict. Either one's right, the other one's wrong, or both are wrong and someone else is right. But if, like what Alicia says, Caden's phone data linked up with the police makes sense, is correct, it's all fine, true, then what's the response from others who are around Jack Newton? Do they say that his phone data is correct and links up and that his timeline is? If Jack's timeline is correct, Caden Pressey's timeline's correct, and yet both don't gel well together and there's conflict, then you're fucked, right? There's obviously a big issue. And that's just between two people. Two of the more prominent people, I guess. But there's still other people of interest, isn't there? Whether that be 40 or 10 to 15. And like I said, if I was to count on the fingers as to who was present on a Monday, as in early hours of Monday, and even before 2 a.m., even before, just before 2 a.m, because I'm thinking beyond that, that's when Caden Pressey gets a call from his mum, and the mum saying, oh, the niece, Georgia, has made it back home. We've taken her home, right? So we say that before that, as still going into Monday morning past midnight of Sunday, who do you have? You got Jack, you got Noah, you got Caden, Brylan, Mikey, Isaac, Logan, Avery, Carter, Jasmine, Stephanie, and anyone else? Georgia, Breely. 2 more people. Who are the 2 other people? Did I say Stephanie and Stephanie's boyfriend? Well, I'm shit at counting, to be honest. I've effed it up in my head. That's like 20 people or something. Or still close to 15, but it's not quite the exact mark. Unless I've made a mistake. But that doesn't even take into account Justin Roy's family of family. But you got to take in mind, there can be a crossover between Sunday night, Monday morning. Some people can say it's the same thing. They refer to Monday morning as Sunday night. It's fucking confusing and annoying. But if we're talking literally about Monday morning onwards, and if people say 10 to 15 party goers, there seems to be more than 10 to 15. And why do you need to say 10 to 15? Do you mean that there was 15 people early on Monday, but then by 2 a.m. onwards, it was down to 10 instead? I don't know. Because you got to mention the reference of the Texas boys as well. So you got Justin Roy's family of family there. 6 to 10, 6 to 11 people already. But then again, it depends who left altogether, one by one, over the days. It's a problem, isn't it? So we've mentioned the regular names. We've even mentioned Caden's cousin and the cousin's friend. Mentioned Stephanie and Stephanie's boyfriend. Then Justin's family of family, maybe 6, 10 people. And then Texas boys as well. That still seems like it's creeping on to 30 to 40 people. But it's okay, some saying, yeah, there was 40 people on a particular day or night. But then you've also got the references where people say, oh yeah, people were coming and going from the party. Oh yeah, Travis Monson, Colton Newton, and a skinny individual, whether that be Bump Ass or somebody else, right? Coming and going, that's a bit of a mess. Movement with phones, phone data, and beyond. The geo fence, too. There's a lot going on, a lot at play, but on the surface level, not a lot being done. But in the background, maybe things are being done. But it's hard to tell, isn't it? With the Dylan Rounds case, one phone, data revealed from it. The phone was found June 19th, 2022. The beginning of Dylan's death occurred the 28th of May, 2022. Then going into June, the investigation kicking off, right? Where was the phone found out of Dylan's? Lucin Pond, a pond full of water. Wow, what a great description by me. The fact that the phone was submerged in water, you'd think it'd be damaged, messed up, end of the line. It wasn't. Forensic teams did the deep analysis and found what they needed. Some rich, incriminating data, which was retrieved by them. So the phone was found June 19th. A forensic deep dive was done, which later revealed incriminating evidence upon that phone of the murderer, and that was around, I think, the 7th or the 17th of November, in November. Months passing by and finding rich data from the phone, evidence, video, photo, a time-lapse video of Brenner, time-stamped originally at 7:27 a.m., the after death of Dylan. Brenner then in possession of Dylan's phone in the trailer. Somehow the phone accidentally records itself, but by the lock screen on Apple, you can accidentally do it. I've done it myself. Lands stood up or on its side, luckily, which then shows Brenner blood on him, cleaning a gun, which may have been the one used, and so on. Pretty incriminating, right? And that shirt that was later found by police, retrieved with blood on it and DNA belonging to Dylan. Self-explanatory. That forensic dive was successful. Despite the phone being submerged in water for some time and possibly being damaged to an extent, that time-lapse video was retrieved. The context as to whether Brenner deleted that particular video or not is unknown. It's been worded from the mother, Candice Cooley, that Brenner accidentally hit the record button unknown to it at the time, but disposed of the phone anyway, regardless of whether he knew of that video or not. And that would make sense, disposing of a phone. You don't want it to trace or track you anymore. But with the phone probably being still turned on the same day, with enough battery, with the weather app and other apps and services in the background being used or open, which requires location and tracking, Brenner, despite being of an older age, not experienced enough because of being too much of an older age, and I guess with technology and not really caring that much, that his own phone, what he had was like an old flip phone. He probably wouldn't be quite aware of, I guess, day-to-day technology, tracing and tracking, so he underestimated it and disposed of it at the pond itself of Lucin, unknown to him. Now, if there was more context in regards to, let's say, his Dylan's phone and the time-lapse video being deleted, would it have been retraceable, found by the forensic team? Maybe, because if you just simply delete a video or a photo from your phone, it'll go to the recycle bin. You can still retrieve it. Or if you've got iCloud turned on, it will go up there. You think you deleted it from the gallery. You think you removed it from the recycle bin, but it's in the cloud. But then once again, it depends who the person is with the phone to begin with, because not everybody has iCloud turn on. Not everybody has OneDrive turn on. I myself have it turned off because I cannot stand it, okay? I do not want this being put here, put there, and not being able to reach it. I don't want files being full. It messed up the computer in the past in terms of games and files going into OneDrive, it being filled out, and then the excess files being stuck on the other side of the computer files. There was cross-conflict, games crashing, things spazzing out, pissed me off. And that's with a computer. So when it comes to a phone and videos and photos, the same could happen there. And you can even just forget about it, forget they exist out there. And if it's something somewhat private, it can go very wrong. Now, in terms of my nipples, that's all under control because enough people have seen them already. So we don't need to worry about that. But in terms of other people, and even like with celebrities, when you get leaked photos, that will be because of the iCloud being hacked. And when it comes to being hacked within this case, supposedly that's a theme itself, isn't it? Like when people have talked about the Dropbox being hacked. Now, that's what Alicia says, and others say it wasn't hacked because you shared it with someone, you gained their trust, and they screwed you over, and then that person then leaked it to the general public. Is that considered hacking? Not quite based off that concept. But if you hack into someone's mind to gain their trust, that can be hacking in alternative ways. See, all under control with language and wording, it just depends how you apply and use it. But to refer back to the Dylan Rounds case, forensic dive completed, successful, a key video retrieved. Despite the phone being disposed of and almost destroyed, it wasn't destroyed enough. But in fairness, before the forensic dive was done, when Canis Cooley, the family, Justin Roy, cloned the phone on someone else's device to look for social media, to look through it, nothing of interest was found. So they weren't able to find that particular video. The forensic team had to find it themselves. As to the direct methods, I can't remember, or it might have not been mentioned, but it was still doable at the end of the day. And that was with one person, one phone, found June 19th, ended up coming to a conclusion and a finding in November time. Some months passing by just for one device. If the same has to happen with the Noah Presgrove case of 40 people, okay, a couple, I can't even count in my head, but so many months passing gone by for one phone, times that by 40 people, will that equate to a year onwards, if not more? It all comes down to, of course, the condition of the phones. If every single phone was wiped or destroyed or disposed of, and it had to require a forensic team, the longer it will take. If it's just a couple, it won't take as long, but still time passing by. If nobody had factory reset their phone and it's all still there visible, then you probably don't need to do a forensic dive. But in fairness, the police aren't going to know, or the authorities aren't going to truly just believe that and take it as word. They'll probably still do a forensic dive regardless, just to double check and make sure that there isn't anything secretly in the background that might have been covertly deleted, even if it is like a meaningless photo or video to an extent. So I get that, it takes time. The interviews like what we're seeing, that can take time. If Kathy Bingham interviewed 6 people out of how many? How many? 6 out of 40? I know some people could argue and say, well, that's not enough. That's not good enough. Private investigator. Chop, chop. Who knows what's happened since? But that's like re-quoting from the Partners in True Crime interview, Kathy Bingham, and then reposted on Reddit through transcripts or additional analysis there. So it takes long enough to do an interview with someone. It's probably going to take even longer to do all the technical stuff with technology, even if you are a professional, because you want to do it thoroughly, you want to check for it bit by bit, okay? Oh God, these cables are pulling a little bit near to me. I've got to be careful, I don't want to pull anything off. Now, to be honest, we've not seen the comments yet in terms of that post. Do we need to? Maybe not. Maybe it shouldn't be spoiled, you know, no offense. Because, no, actually, no, shit. No, I will cover it because for me to... earlier on to say that, you know, spread awareness of other people's posts or comments, I'd be contradicting myself there and I'll be a bit of a hypocrite. See, this is what I mean. Introspection, on-the-spot thinking. Oh, it's all observable there, isn't it? I'll look at some comments at least. I just want to be time efficient with the time that one has. But yeah, with my thoughts in terms of the phones, in terms of even the timestamps and how it might be changed or manipulated, to an extent, you might be able to change it, yes, on certain devices and types, but not everything. If you go to the gallery of your phone device, you can alter the name of the file, the time of when it was taken. You can reset it back afterwards if you want, because that's the thing what you got to understand. Unless you change the time to something and then you delete it afterwards, or you create a new copy of that time and then delete the original, so then the new one, that's been duplicated now has that fixed time of when you change it to whatever you wanted. But then again, when you do that and you make a second copy, I'm sure the second copy is of the time of when you made the second copy and not of the first copy, which you adjusted the time at. So you probably screw yourself over. What I'm saying is, if you just simply had photos and videos, you went to the gallery, you changed the time, the date, the year to suit your preference for whatever reason that is, you can change it successfully. Yes, you can. It's easy to do. But once you press done and leave it like that, I think you can go back to that photo and reset it. It's just because maybe it's different nowadays, but I remember like with Apple nowadays, and even when I had the last one, which was a couple of years ago, and when you go to the gallery, even changing the filter, the tone, the theme, cutting it, cropping the video, changing the resolution and whatnot in the gallery settings, yes, you can press save, but then it will always have the revert red button back to the original format. Whereas in the past, before that, such as when I was on Android, you'd edit a video, cut it down in the gallery, and it would say save. And once you save it, you can't go back. Things have changed. So if you make a mistake, you can actually go back on it. If you make an uncalculated decision, the police can go back on it and look at the original format. Now, that's not really the case elsewhere, or in certain situations, the police can, or forensics probably could find it in other ways as well. There's probably still always a chance, especially if someone or some people really want to find it. I mean, at the end of the day, not that it always correlates, but if you used to look at a group of partygoers that may or may not try to hide or alter something to save themselves or save one another, just compare it to hardened criminals. Some masterminds and some serial killers have gone on for so long, and yet they still managed to slip up. Traces have been left behind. Police have got a hold of them. And that's with more experienced killers and people that do bad stuff. Do you honestly think a group of partygoers are going to be able to pull off a master plan better than well-known serial killers and other people out there? Makes you think. When you got someone like Brian Koberger, bit of a sensitive topic as in because some people are for and against him being guilty and others believe he's innocent. But somehow it caught up on him. Well, may not be the best example, but I think I was just using it as a link because of, I guess, one's intelligence and what a teacher or something at the university, and yet still, if you are somewhat involved, somehow, if that's truly the case, if still catches up, things go wrong. You got a group of party goers who are supposedly drunk too. Are they going to be that clear, consistent, and more intelligent? That's not to be rude, that's just being realistic. Are they going to be able to pull off something? Makes you think. Even Stevie Howard, if Stevie Howard was somehow involved, and I say somehow only because that they dug themselves into a hole the moment they said, if we were responsible as parents, if we're so evil, we would have done a better job at getting rid of Noah's body that no one would find him. Experienced? Who knows? Giving a scenario? Yeah, more than likely. Just not a good look, and the timing of it is poor. So you can't blame people for questioning it. But even if somehow one like that was involved, would they be good enough in hiding? They might talk a lot and give a good game about, yeah, I can do really well at hiding someone. Is that really true? Can you really do that, or what? As for partygoers alone, can they? Probably not. But have they been able to, if it's true? You'd say yeah, because there's not been any arrest yet. I know that's kind of away from the phone situation, but that in itself, with a bit of common sense, you've got to try and figure out. If you've got a group of reckless partygoers which aren't smart, I'm not saying that that's truly the case, but let's just use that as an example. They could make mistakes. They could slip up. They could make mistakes, be inconsistent, make themselves look suspicious, and that may or may not have already happened. And yet still nothing has been done. Well, then the next factor would be some of the authority don't want to take action because they have a soft spot, a conflict of interest for those partygoers. That's really the only other factor at the end of the day. If you're hated or you're not given special treatment by police, more likely action to be taken against you if you do something wrong, right? If you're smart enough, somehow you might be able to fool the police and get away with it, or bide your time over the course of days, weeks, months, and whatever. So there's that. Referring back to phones though, because that's what the main theme is today. The Snapchat 527, I think provided by Brookbounds Carter. I provided you a timestamp. Is that not good enough? Well, I mean, it shows as for a photo. The problem is there was no bloody photo of the people in the shot. Okay, you got a timestamp, yeah. But what's the context of the photo? You can describe it with words, but why not just show it visually? If you can show the photo or the screenshot of the timestamp, why can't you also show the photo or screenshot of the bloody photo then, next to it? Slide 1, photo of people smiling. Slide 2, the information section of the timestamp, the raw, unfiltered one. There's been conflict there in regards to, is it altered or not? And people said you can alter it on Snapchat, you can manipulate it, you can change it. Okay, I see. Any other important details to mention? Yeah, before I forget. What people also need to question, besides the ratio of photos to videos, how many of them are out there? What's the other thing you got to acknowledge is when people talk about screenshots. Screenshots are basically photos. Screenshotting a static image on screen of the device you're taking the screenshot of, okay? Screenshots can also be from videos. A video can become a photo by taking a screenshot of whatever's on that video being played. Watching a video will involve movement and animation and whatnot. But looking at a photo such as a painting will be still. It can still tell a story, of course, a picture can. But you're not really seeing any movement or what will happen next because it's a screenshot. A time lapse is like many photos taken back to back, boom, 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 like that, then merged together like a slideshow and sped up to turn it into a form of animation, which then becomes a video. There you go. There might be some things in between as well, like, well, I can't think of it, but you can list it below if you want. So they're the different features and formats. So whenever people say, oh yeah, the screenshot of the shower or a screenshot of the side-by-side rollover or a screenshot of this or that, it's probably a still shot taken from a video, possibly. So you could argue and say whenever there's a mention of a screenshot, there's a mention of a video, a party piece of footage, to an extent. Okay? Next point I wanted to refer on to with the Snapchat situation. Things may have been recorded and sent and posted on Snapchat. It can be disappearing messages and photos and videos, which are only present for a few minutes, 24 hours. There's an expiry date. I don't know if it's permanent, but there tends to be an expiry date and people will do that to an extent. It's like Instagram. Instagram stories, where the profile picture will glow around the rim. TikTok, somewhat similar. You upload a photo or maybe a video and it will be visible for everyone that follows you or visits your page for like 24 or 72 hours. You might be able to change the timing of it. As soon as it expires, that's it. You will never see it again. That's the same with Snapchat. I don't use it, but I have heard about it extensively. Okay? That's how it happens. How do you preserve it? If someone sent a photo or a video through Snapchat, you can get a screenshot. You might be able to save the video. You know what the problem is? The original poster will be notified. And that's where it gets messy. Not in the party case situation, but like just in general in life. If anyone did something dodgy, a photo or a video, you know, and sent it to someone through Snapchat as a disappearing message, they'll be notified if it has been saved or screenshotted. And you'd be caught red-handed. There's that. That's why Caden Pressey, when contacted by Jack Newton, and I can't remember the date now, if I'll be honest with you, but it was in 2024, some months ago, when it was Caden Pressey, his girlfriend, with Logan Jernigan and possibly JJ Bump Ass in a diner eating food, and out of nowhere, Jack, from wherever he was, contacted Caden through Snapchat and was asking, what's the story? Retell me the story, the timeline. You know, I'm just asking this because I don't want to get upset, which some people thought was a threat. Then talking about it was daylight, no, it was night time, as Caden replied, what are you on about? The headlamps as well. There was that. But the reason why I use that as a link is because Caden Pressey's girlfriend, or at least girlfriend at the time, took photos of that conversation, what we've seen and what's been relayed online, which has been very helpful. But the girlfriend took photos from her phone of Caden's phone perspective. So no screenshots were taken. And that was done specifically to not alert Jack of what was going on there. Because Jack was on to people in the past, I think, with someone on Facebook where Jack, I think, said to a person, oh yeah, go ahead, go and screenshot this as well, right? If it wasn't Jack, then it would have to be Colton. It's only because I could be getting mixed up, okay? The other Snapchat conversation was between Colton Newton and a complete stranger claiming to be a friend of Noah. Sounds dodgy, doesn't it? I guess done to get Colton to speak. And they were screenshots, so Colton would have known. Not exactly the most covert or lack of covert, is it? So it might blow your cover. And if you make yourself known or your actions or intentions, they could run away, it could scare them off, they could come after you, they could suddenly not give you true answers because they don't trust you anymore. Kind of like you might be having a conversation with someone, you want them to talk, you want them to confess, you might get like a little voice recorder in your pocket or a mic elsewhere. A little bit manipulative, you know, sneaky, but you want answers, you want a natural environment, natural setting. You got to go about it a certain way, right? So there is that. Is there anything else to mention with Snapchat? Just that would have been good to see the supposed 5:27 a.m. photo of, what was it, Mikey or another guy with the girls smiling. That in itself wouldn't make any sense either. I mean, I think what people were getting at, the counterforce, was saying, well, if Caden Pressey's saying his timeline's correct, and if he truly was at the highway at that time with the likes of Mikey or the other guys, and one of the guys wasn't actually there, was at the house, then it makes you think, well, why did Caden get that wrong then? Why would you say he was with you when he wasn't? If that's wrong, what else is? The context behind a photo, which I've not seen, despite just the timestamp being shown, which is a bit poor, but the photo has been visibly shown too, would counter Caden as well, or at least bring it into a bit of question and doubt, because why the hell would a guy and the girls be smiling for a photo selfie to some extent, after hearing the news of Noah's death? What? Because I thought they were supposed to be upset and crying. So would that imply that, well, if it really was true that 5:27 timestamp of that photo taken of the guy and the girls was true, happy and smiling, it must be at the time of when they didn't know about Noah's death? But then you could use a counterpoint and say, no, it could still be in line somehow by some weird chance, because it just so happened that Jasmine Milan was smiling in that Snapchat post at 3:41 a.m. upon hearing the news of Noah wandering off and him being missing. Not enough concern there. No, I'll just laugh and smile. But the same could have happened then with that supposed Snapchat. If it was somehow true, if you wanted to somehow make sense of it in an alternative, outside of the box way, smiling because they didn't know how to react because they were still drunk. Defense mechanisms. Many different ways of looking at it. Yes, it does get complex, but you want to try and reason with it while still making sense of Caden's timeline and keeping that held up. That's what you got to do. But maybe you've got to do the same for other people's timelines as well. So what we'll do, we'll just go on to the Facebook post now just to look at any loose comments and see if there's any points I missed out on. So if I just scroll down, we do have the comment section here. We'll keep it on most relevant for now. Well, Jennifer says, great post. That was Saturday. Dakota, feet are just dragging along the ground. Sounds a little bit defeatist, but what's the response? Well, Jody, the individual that accused Justin Roy and his cronies paying Warlight Ref off, which is Misinformation, not true, no proof either. Jody says, curious what part you were dismissive of. This is a great post with really well articulated and reasonable points to me. Ha ha! Fucking hell, get a grip. For Jody to say, of all things, this is actually really articulated and reasonable. Shame same can't apply to yourself with that previous post that I saw. Anyway, Dakota says, anyone else it would have been solved overnight. Nicole, solved with what evidence? Evidence created by those not involved? Well, that's the thing, Dakota. For you to say, oh, it would have been solved overnight if it was anyone else. Really? Look at the Dylan Rounds case. That went on for 2+ years. It came to a head in 2024. Okay? Now, in terms of someone being taken in, granted that did occur in 2022, but it was not to do with the actual death of Dylan Rounds. It was to do with unrelated gun charges. I believe it was April 9th, 2024, when Brenner accepted a plea deal and basically admitted to what he did to Dylan Rounds. In terms of when Brenner was actually charged with the desecration, first-degree murder, that was at some point in 2023, I believe. March, I think it was March 10th, 2023, around that point, roughly. It's still going over a year or creeping up to a year, and there was hard, solid evidence. There was only one person on site of the property, in which then it became two when Dylan Rounds came about and parked his grain truck in the shed, or at least attempted to. Only 2 people on site, with Lucin, Utah at the time being a total population of 4 people, and the case went on for 4 years, right? Can we make that very clear? This situation with Noah Presgrove, many, many more people present and scattered around. And where it took place wasn't, well, where at least one was found, was not on the party house property, but on the highway, 2 different scenes. Same levels of evidence? Who knows? Because from the surface level, it seems a little bit abstract and hard to grasp and a bit messy. But when you compare it to the Dylan Rounds case, you use those measuring tools, you put it into perspective, you know, things can drag on when there is either incompetence by police or corruption. One or the other, maybe a bit of both. We've got to take that in mind. What's this? Dakota says to Nicole, shit, you're probably involved in some big ass account. What? What's going on here? Wait, hold on. Nicole Brown. Was it Twilight? Was it Rebecca? Who was it in recent time in the live chat on my channel that made a reference to Nicole Brown? But she says, solved with what evidence? Evidence created by those not involved? So what side is Nicole Brown on? Well, she seems to have a profile picture of a UFO, and that says, please take me with you. Oh, God, Nicole Brown. When the UFO comes on in, they're going to be thinking, what the hell's going on? They'll probably rather abduct a cow instead. Not you, I meant an actual cow. And speaking of which, when it comes to David Paulides on this case, by the way, buy my book whilst you're at it, on the highway, how did that happen to Noah Presgrove? Maybe he was abducted by aliens and then dropped off and tested. That's roughly what Paulides was getting at. Missing 411. Oh my goodness. That was not too well, was it? Andrea Jubrov says, I get that, but this is par for the course in cases. Everything takes so long, it's frustrating for sure. The only thing you can do is put things in perspective by saying and comparing with other cases which are a little bit more simplistic or involve less people. If other cases which involve less people and witnesses take quite some time, then you can multiply it roughly by how many people are involved in this case. And if there's 40 party goers, just as an example, you can imagine how long it could take. I agree. But at what cost will they say it was an accident? Nicole says to Dakota, you're really showing your ignorance. I guess you don't know of any evidence that would use to make an arrest. Andrea, They go where the actual evidence leads them. These pages are a lot of riled up people bashing things off, a little bit of info, but mostly letting their feelings lead them. Or flat out making up stuff to blame someone. Police don't care about the opinion of others. They only work with what they can prove in court. Dakota, if y'all understand the amount of corruption in Oklahoma, then you'd see the picture of what I'm talking about. Especially in these very small rural towns, Ellie thinks they can just brush things under the rug. But they never imagined this case to blow up like it did. Has this case really blew up, though? When I think about it with the Dylan Rounds one, it hasn't blown up that much. In the Dylan Rounds case, the parents, more so the mother, was pushing online, revealing details as well, even if the police may have not wanted it to be revealed, getting the community of, what was it at the time, 35,000 members to reach out to the state of Utah, reach out to Box Elder, send emails, messages, and there was a big overflow of that. Then you had the extended teams in the background, the K9 team, Texas Equisearch, and much more. But then again, certain different resources for a different type of case, which was a missing person murder case. This is just simply a possible true crime related case because Noah was found. Then, if Noah had been a missing person as well and disposed of, maybe heavier resources could have been used and more evidence could have been collected, a bit more proactivity. And if not, it would have stood out even more to the public, as in possible corruption, if not action was taken. Nicole, to say all these officials, including state officials, are covering up a murder is insane. Maybe a small local PD or even a county PD, but not the state police. Except for it isn't local small town law enforcement that is investigating, it's a state agency. What would you have to gain? Andrea, so you're suggesting the corruption starts at local level and moves up to state? I just find it insanely hard to believe. Who the hell's that person? Just a random gif. Laura, back in the day when my son was 12 or so, he and his classmates became PC experts on their own, networking long before anyone knew what it was or what to call it. If all these websites, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, and more were created for and possibly by the younger generation, then how can any of us mature adults say with pure certainty that they cannot outsmart forensic scientists? Well, you could get new upcoming young forensic scientists who are ahead of the curve as well. That's a counterpoint, right? Bill, I bet there are a lot of phones set back to factory settings after the party. Actually, I remember Bill Harmon. I think Big Bill, ended up having a go at me at one point previously. Also connected friends with Vanessa. I just remember that based off my memory. Anyway, they're trying to erase evidence, but there's a digital footprint of everything. I wished Oklahoma law enforcement would do their job and start arresting these people. Noah was murdered, and these people are trying to cover it up. I bet no one factory reset their phones, says Nicole Brown. At the end of the day, if there was a witness or a couple of people that actually saw others deleting things off the phone, that's something, it's a start. But really, you just have a lot of people online saying phones, factory reset, yes, it happened. Where is the proof? And there might be proof, but can you describe what it's about and why you know what's up? You get me? What else? I read that Carter Combs had everything off her phone. It's not hard to get everything off a phone. I barely know how to work everything on a phone. I know you can factory reset your phone, which will take everything off like a brand new phone. Right. Reality is, I have factory reset my phone. I had to. I had no choice. That was with Apple support. You know, with the screen recorder not working when I got the new phone. It was an absolute nightmare. It took maybe a week or two. Messed up my video schedule. YouTube, you'll know it because if things went quieter, didn't they? It was hell. And they said factory reset, this and that. And I did. Did I lose anything? Well, yeah. But it was backed up on a previous phone. So it was okay. Separate then. iCloud turned off. Nothing whatsoever was in the iCloud because it was deleted and turned off as well. Okay? Because I don't like iCloud. But after factory resetting the phone, and losing all the apps, Either I could transfer it from my old phone onto the new phone, and it does it instantly, or I manually do it bit by installing different apps over time. So that's what I chose to do. I installed Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or anything else. And if I have an account with one of those services, whether it's a sign-in via Apple or Apple Store, or if it's a sign-in through Google, like YouTube and some other services, even Yahoo, you get the idea, don't you? So as long as you've got an account, it doesn't matter if your device is reset or not. Yes, you lose the apps, and you will probably definitely lose images, photos from the phone because it's directly on the phone itself. But apps that you lose, as long as you have an account with that service, which you can sign into on another device, you're not really losing anything. So if it came to possibly Snapchat or a social media like Instagram, where you actually posted public or some kind of private type of videos and photos onto your profile, when you factory reset your phone, you will lose the app, but you will not lose all the contents within that app. As long as you sign back in, you'll have access to your account, that social media account, and the photos that come with it. Does that make sense? What else do we have here? Biggest point that stands out to me is 527, Snapchat. There's no way these criminal masterminds messed with a timestamp and posted it in the group for undercover LE to see. That would be a red flag for LE. Oh, there we go. Christy CE. This is an excellent post. Immediately giving full access to your phone and account speaks volumes. Hopefully other families with lots of members or nearby on the road have done and will do the same. Response-wise, I agree, it's a step in good faith for sure. Also, they just wouldn't have the time to change all the Snapchats, videos and pictures and whatever other social media things. Also, phone calls and texts, it's actually preposterous to think they could do all that in a short amount of time. I mean, honestly, if there were a handful of events at the party itself which Noah was present and alive, and it didn't involve his death, then there would be no reason, to the top of my knowledge, to alter that stuff. But we'll get to that in a second, because I'll try and understand it from other perspectives, because I might be a bit ignorant jumping ahead like that. Jason Bell, ding dong, says, didn't even think of that. They would have to change everyone's phones, not just the one to pull off a cover up. Laura Dutton, just curious then, what's the point of a person resetting own phone to factory reset? Heard some people doing that. Yeah. Who did you hear do this? I think I heard one of the girls had a newer phone, Carter Combs. Thanks, just read your other comments. No one here, and Andrea just replying with a perfect answer. Thanks. Exactly. Each person would have to change so many things, doesn't make any sense. So just adding on, because I thought I'll give you my raw thoughts. And maybe some people say, oh my God, Walleye Graph did look at the comments and the post at the end there on Facebook. But I have spent an hour already showing my face and talking. Maybe for some that's torturous, but for others, it shows why it's all in here. No notes whatsoever. Okay, just scan through something. I can say as an experiment, it worked out today, which is obviously a positive. When I do lock in, it is better showing my face. I get that. There's a time and place for everything. But in terms of the party itself, events that took place at the party, specifically when Noah was present and maybe engaging with, if it wasn't to do with his death or, seconds before the death, then how important are those particular events? Still very important, as in trying to learn the timeline of how things went from one place to another, where people relocated and moved on, and where Noah was at a point in time, of course. Like the bedroom debacle being one of the most significant events, as in it was like a turning point for Noah, altering where he would be next, supposedly. And with a backdrop of other forms of rejection, not being able to get taken home, etc. You look at what was recorded as in material which links to these events. Well, the bedroom debacle wasn't recorded. No footage of it, no photos of it, from the looks of it, at least from what we know of. Because I am sure that there is party footage out there, whether it be public or not, and it's not exactly sensitive, nor does it need to be hidden. I'll give you an example. I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. On Kaylee True Crime Deep Dive channel, Kaylee, the one with the squeaky voice, who's not active now, but at the time they were on this case. Obviously, they had issues with me. Well, yeah, petty behaviour. We saw it from the Dylan Rounds case. You do your research, you'll know what I mean. But they had a video clip which showed a piece of party footage from a Snapchat from someone's point of view. Who knows who was recording it? And it showed Carter Combs punching an object and Shandy by the side. So that would be Saturday. Timestamp I don't know of. Simple footage, not a big deal. And yet it's footage that is hard to find. It's not easily accessible, is it? So whilst people, yes, do say you need to get all the footage together and then order it in the correct, time of how things played out. Yeah, you have to get the bloody footage in the first place. Even the simplest and shortest of clips can be a needle in a haystack. That is a problem. The fact that some of these little recordings and clips that took place on Saturday, not as significant, right? And as for the theme of what was involved in the footage, not that significant. And yet, it's hard to get a hold of, or at least in my opinion. Maybe I need to ask a question to the odd person and see what they think about some footage. But I definitely feel with a level of confidence that there is insignificant party footage which has not been either publicly revealed or hasn't been shared much, and it's just faded away. But furthermore, if Snapchat is one of the most used apps with those partygoers specifically, and at the time, photos and videos taken can be done through the app itself. Okay? But, in fairness, to an extent, not everything. Sometimes you could take a photo and then you could go into an app and then upload it, right? So, like, if you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram, you want to upload a photo or video, you can do so from accessing your own gallery on your phone or computer device, checking the files, and then adding a clip, multimedia thing, photo, video, onto that app, social media, to then post public, privately, with friends, etc. If you don't have any material, any videos, photos on your phone in your gallery section, you can literally load up the app, press record, and you can record a video within that app which then auto uploads to that social media platform without it saving onto your own device. Sometimes you've got the option to have it save onto the device, and then other times you won't. Depends what setting you have it set as. So is there a possible chance that party goers that had their phones with them, that had been using Snapchat at the time, that had recorded a video clip of an event taking place was through via the Snapchat app, maybe, instead of directly using the camera app on the phone by default? Now, in terms of timestamps and how you alter that, well, we've seen counterpoints to the 527 one, where people were saying, yeah, well, if Mikey was taking a photo with the girls, that could have been adjusted a timestamp to suit someone else's agenda. But if Brooke Bounds Carter was in possession of it and some other people, right, I'm not saying it directly from my mouth, but from the perspective of others, if you got Brooke Bounds Carter that has that clip or photo screenshot, and then some others, the dark force, dark side, as people like to call them, is there an agenda there? But if there was, how did one get a hold of that photo or screenshot of that specific timestamp? And when and at what point was it changed or possibly manipulated to suit somebody's agenda against Caden Pressey? Because if Mikey Lair was the one who took the photo or selfie with the girls, why the hell would Mikey be allowing for that to be passed on to Brooke or somebody else, for then Caden to be attacked and thrown under the bus? Why would Mikey allow that? Because if Caden was with Mikey and Mikey was with Brylan and Isaac and they were at the highway, wouldn't they stick up for one another? Or not? Just whatever is what it is and not make any counterpoint or reference? Or does Mikey not know? Or was it that the person that took the photo or the selfie which had Mikey or another guy within the photo was one of the girls, Carter, Avery, linking up with Stevie Howard because of the mother, and a long-time best friend for 20 plus years, not by blood but close enough, Brooke Bounds Carter, or a level of closeness, a conflict of interest, or an equal understanding as in what needs to be done or what needs to be altered with, if you was to look at it that way. Does that make sense to people? Hopefully. Because if it was Mikey, if it was Brylan, if it was Isaac, and they're somewhat friends with Caden, or at least want to be truthful and honest and was with Caden, if there is a photo of one of those guys present with girls and there is a certain timestamp which is conflicting with Caden's and discredits him, I'm surprised one of the guys hasn't spoken up publicly, whilst Brooke Bounds Carter has got that material to share and say, well, look, this is the timeline, this is the truth, and it doesn't link on with Caden. So there's a problem. So maybe it's 1 hour 15 minutes later, not 1 hour 15 minutes earlier, than 5:15. Okay? As for altering Snapchats, I've not got experience there, but some other people said that they tried and you could change it. Okay, fair enough. I mean, when you go to the gallery mode on Apple or Android, the gallery app itself, you can change the files, you can change the times, but you can also revert it afterwards. If you create a new copy, maybe the time will be set as what you adjusted and it's fixed. So it might come across as a bit more sneaky, but somewhere, surely it might have like a duplicate, or it might have a certain code or number behind it in the background, which you could determine and say, yes, it has been manipulated in some way. Surely by now in today's world and technology, even if it's very private and in the background, there's got to be something out there that can trace and track this and that. But it depends if it's being used in a case like this. Either way, up to now, not much has really happened. So does that mean that, yes, lots of phones have been retrieved, data has been retrieved, videos have been retrieved, deleted stuff has been retrieved, and it's yielded nothing? Unless stuff's going on in the background and it shocks and surprises everyone at the end of it. The silence right now can benefit others, and then for some, it sounds not good, bad news. What happens if at the end of the day, news does come out, publicly and officially, that both sides of the parties are shocked? And so it completely different happens. Who knows? You got to be aware. You got to be somewhat prepared just in case. Because if people have already been burnt out already, or feel trust has been an issue, belief has been an issue, everything could turn upside down all over again. It's a heavy prediction to make, but like I said before, is there a possibility where you could have a bit of negotiation with a crossover of an event which happened or a cause of death took place which isn't popular, but as for who was behind it, someone completely different? Different ways of looking at it, right? As for, different people at the party, maybe recording the same events but from different points of views, possibly. Then they themselves individually posting it online. So do we have any duplicates then? See, this is the thing, when you've got somebody holding a phone up recording an event and then panning around, is anyone else holding a phone up too recording like it's some kind of big crowd or concert? No. Because interestingly, as many people present with phones, they're not exactly glued to them either, at least from some of the footage what we saw of. Maybe that's not enough to tell a whole story, but people are actually looking at each other and talking, and maybe some previous generations would have a go and say, oh, well, they're not like that nowadays, and yet what you saw, it seemed to be like that, which you could say is a positive. Like Caden Pressey, when Caden Pressey was there in the room, was it the living room? Most people stood up talking face to face, not glued to the phones, no one else really recording. Not really. Maybe the exception of the guy on the couch sofa, but besides that, no one actually recording, only one person at a time. So does that reduce the amount of duplicate clips of a particular event? It's like the shower situation that was supposedly recorded by someone, one of the girls. Okay. Did anyone else record it too? Not from the looks of it. The argument at the front porchway after Noah left and didn't return, Avery and Carter arguing. What happened there? A person supposedly recorded it. Anyone else? No, it's not really come up. So for each event, it seems to be only one person recording each moment from one perspective. Does it narrow it down? Because what I would say is, if, and just if, there was other people that recorded the same exact event, but just from a different point of view, it would be very important to include both when analysing, to compare, contrast from the different angles and perspectives. One may show more than the other, a different side to the story, and furthermore, to compare and contrast the consistency of the times. Because let's just say you got the side-by-side rollover, if there was a video, and then another person recorded it as well. Will it give the same exact timestamp as when it happened, or the after events, the same timestamp? Who knows? But that's what the problem is. There don't seem to be duplicate clips from different points of views. So you haven't got as much to compare and contrast. As to the mention of people uploading it onto a social media page and then having to alter the times or the dates, I just don't think you can do that. You know, it's easy to do in the gallery and here and there before you post online. Look, as I said, when it comes to YouTube, let's say I upload a video now, and then I'm thinking, oh no, I need to change it to a different time. Well, I can't. I just can't unless I delete the video and re-upload on a different day. Even if I uploaded the video today and then edited it 10 years later, it ain't gonna change the day. When it comes to YouTube, the comment section, you might leave a comment. 5 years later, you might edit that comment and add on an additional response or correct a spelling mistake. Once you press confirm, it will say in brackets your comment was edited, and the other person will be alerted too when they see that mentioned. But no time stamp, no time update given. So there's that as well. For Instagram, does it give an actual time stamp or date of when something was posted? I think so, yeah. But as for the exact time, I don't know. Maybe you'd have to look deeper or download the photo or do something to inspect closer. But I'm sure if you look on the database of some sort on Instagram or other places too, it might show something. But when it comes to Snapchat, if you was to post a particular video, where would it really go? I mean, I don't use Snapchat, but I know, disappearing messages, whispers, where you can send it and it'll be viewable for the next 10 minutes or less, or 24 hours or a bit longer, and then it will delete itself. I don't know if there is an actual profile on Snapchat where you've got like a library of videos you can post on there, like, YouTube with my channel. All those videos mentioned, the date, the year, the month, but no time, as in 11 in the morning was it uploaded, 12 in the morning, late at night. It doesn't mention that, but it might do within YouTube if you dig deeper. But as for Snapchat, I don't know exactly how it looks there in terms of, visually. So when you take that into mind and you compare and contrast from the different partygoers and viewpoints, piecing it all together, is there a lot of work at hand that needs to be done to alter this and that? As for times, it just seems like once you've uploaded it onto a certain app, you just can't change the time unless it may be the exception being Snapchat from what people have stated. But is that in the moment or after it's been uploaded? And to link on with, would people need to go to such great lengths and depths if it's with party footage of when Noah was alive, safe and well? Why would you need to adjust any of that? I mean, we've not seen any party footage which shows Jack asleep. But let's just say the photo, because it was a photo from the looks of it. Where was it posted? I don't know. Who by exactly? I don't know. But 1:50 a.m. in the morning, Monday, 4th September 2023. That particular photo inside of the bathroom of the party house with Noah Presgrove, Jack Newton, and Noah Presgrove had writing on his torso area. People question that, fair enough. But some were saying, oh yeah, Jack Newton ended up changing his time of when he actually went to sleep, when he claimed to, saying, oh no, it was 2 in the morning, because it wasn't 1 in the morning, it wasn't 11:30 at night the night before, because this photo shows me awake and alive next to Noah in the bathroom, and I'm claiming to be asleep, so I must change the time to 2 in the morning to suit this 1:50 a.m. piece of evidence, which shows them awake, alive, and okay. Okay, right. See those little adjustments. Not always adjustments as in manipulating the time of the actual photo or video, but maybe altering and adjusting the times of your stories of when you claim to be here or there or when asleep. But then the next roadblock is with 2 a.m, then you got Kate and Presley that says, well, as a witness, I saw Jack awake. It's like with every hurdle trying to overcome it and climb over. But in fairness, and this is not to be negative on Alicia Lee, it's just an over observation, is that reference to contact made to police at 6 a.m. And then Alicia ends up saying, oh no, after 6 a.m, as in later on when Caden got back. Simple mistake, depends how people look at it. Jack Newton, simple mistake. The more times you change the story of a particular event, the less of a mistake it is, right? At least that's how I think of it. Anyway, in terms of that photo of Jack and Noah in the bathroom, who took the photo and where was it uploaded? Onto Snapchat as well? Any other social media besides Snapchat? I think Justin Roy said he looked at a few Snapchat posts, even though he wasn't there. And Justin said the post of what he saw wasn't anything significant, but some of the clips may have been removed or deleted after that. Right. And one of the videos showed Noah dancing. Right. If those are the sort of clips that were deleted or somehow removed, is the proof that it was deleted then? If it was via Snapchat as a disappearing message, it was intended to self-delete. That's just how the app can work. Just like with Instagram stories as well. Just like YouTube with the scheduled post. Now, I could post a very questionable photo, but I'm not that stupid because it's all under control here. And I actually have standards, okay? It might be hard for some people to believe, but you know, you can do a scheduled post. You can do a self-deleted post, which will only be visible for so long, right? Why would you only want it to be available for so long? Maybe it's because you only want a handful of people to see it in the moment because it's relevant as in what's happening right now or about to, and then delete it afterwards so no one gets misinformed or confused. Look, I've done videos, I've done posts, community post from a few months ago, and then people have commented recently saying, oh, I can't wait to see that video scheduled. And I'm thinking, this was bloody 2 months ago. The video's already out. You know what I'm saying? There can be confusion. I mean, it's like when you put flyers up outside, missing person, missing dog, missing cat, and sometimes people don't take the posters down once there's been a resolve. So people are still walking about thinking, oh, is it still ongoing or what? It can lead to confusion. There shouldn't be too much confusion here though with my post. Maybe just people being a bit confused in other ways, scratching their head thinking, what the hell was just said there? How's that so out of context? Where am I at? What am I doing? Kind of like when I was doing a live stream to do the case, and then at the end I was doing some other stuff whispering, and then Jan Fiorillo showed up and thought, what am I watching? So that was kind of funny, but you know, got to lock in other times and focus, right? So is there any type of misunderstanding when it comes to social media and post? There shouldn't be as much of a misunderstanding if it comes to a person using a phone, the camera, to take a photo with the inbuilt camera itself, which then gets saved to the default inbuilt gallery app on the phone through Apple, through Android, through Windows and beyond, right? It should be there. It should give the original timestamp. It can be altered with, but I'm sure it can be looked at the original too as well, from my knowledge. But social media can be a little different, as in you can take a photo, you can record stuff in the app, but it doesn't save to the device. But it will still give, or hopefully it should still give, an original timestamp. See, when it comes to, for example, Jasmine Milan that did that 3:41 in the morning Monday Snapchat post saying, well, Noah's missing, that was through Snapchat, but a filter or an overlay was added which actually gave a clock, a real-time clock at the time of when that post was made, 3:41. A lot of people seem to believe in it. Not many people seem to question it or think it's been altered with. Right. So why would a 5:27 Snapchat post be claimed or questioned to be altered with? Because it goes against Kate and Pressy. So does that mean anything that goes, or any material or any suggestions by people that goes against Caden Pressey, well, that person must be a bad person for questioning Caden Pressey. For that person saying that Caden Pressey's timeline is wrong, well, the evidence that they're providing as a counterpoint must be manipulated or wrong. Sometimes jumping at the deep end a little bit. But then again, there'll be people out there that may have a shorter fuse than me and less patience because they've seen more from darker forces than what I've seen. There's that as well. Like with the Dylan Rounds case, I came across twats, right? And with time, I maintained that, as in I know who was who. But other people along the way, more positive and lenient and seeing the best in them, just because they didn't know what the others were capable of, I was thinking, oh, no. History will repeat itself in some way. Not for me, but for, maybe vulnerable people. There was a range of vulnerable people within the Dylan Rounds case community. There's vulnerable people within the Noah Presgrove case community. Vulnerable as in emotionally connected to the case, invested, having a soft spot and feeling sorry for even Caden or the mother of Caden Pressey, Alicia. Noah Presgrove himself. Connections in all different ways, whether it be by family, friends, or just strangers, distant, but still having a connection. That's where it gets messy. I don't have a connection, so it's a bit easier for me. But yeah, in terms of social media and making adjustments, I don't think I've ever come across that where you can do it. Once you've posted it, and then that's your time, that's the date which is given. And if you want to adjust it, I don't think you can. You might have to delete the post and then re-upload it on a different day. Almost like some apps and social media actually embeds and records the time of when you uploaded it. As for deleted post though, on a social media app, if it wasn't for a disposable or a ghost message which disappears with time in an allocated slot, if it just simply comes down to you manually deleting a post which was originally permanent or there to stay publicly, where you could argue and say, well, maybe the person clicked on the dots and said, right, I'm going to hit delete. And sometimes with some social media apps, it'll have a recycle bin, deleted post, which you can go back to restore maybe in the next 30 days. If you don't, it'll just be deleted completely. But would you be able to trace and track what was once there, which isn't now? Then again, you look at the Wayback Machine on the internet archives and pages, articles, websites, forums, channels which may have been deleted or hidden or restricted. You go on Wayback Machine and you find the traces, archives of like remnants of stuff like that. But then again, in fairness, I don't know if it really does work. From my experience, it never worked. It works for other people, which is typical, but there's that. I think probably leave it there before we get too long or deep because the length itself. But yeah, the importance of found data and retrieval of it is important, and the more people involved and more people of interest, the longer it will take to do. As for the theme of anything being removed, hidden, deleted, if it's to do with an insignificant event, well then it only makes the insignificant event more important than ever and raises eyebrows, because there's got to be a reason, there's got to be some kind of narrative being forged to suit someone or some people's agenda if they didn't want a certain Snapchat post or a photo, a video somewhere which depicted them still being present, alive, awake, or in a certain place where they shouldn't be, or where they've claimed they weren't but they are in the camera shot and they don't like that, so they've got to try and change either the story or delete the post itself or change the time. But then furthermore, you've got to ask yourself, at what point was certain posts deleted? Later on, early on? If it's early on, it's probably before you publicly speak online and do interviews. So you're already one step ahead. Is that so? Would they be then? If it's longer term, later on in life, where you make a change, a little bubble came out of my mouth then, you make a little change, an adjustment or so, it's probably going to be more noticeable. Prime example, not with phone data, but just stories, is when Jack Newton, a few months ago on the last Partisan True Crime interview that they did on the case, interviewing Jack Newton, out of nowhere, Jack Newton decided to say two different things which have never been really mentioned before, publicly speaking, to my knowledge, is that, oh, Noah only had one shoe on at the highway, the other shoe was elsewhere or nearby. And yet the official autopsy said both shoes were on. Caden Pressey said both shoes were on, at least at some point, and at least from what I've witnessed. And then other people as well, opposition, consistency, even though others say it wasn't always consistent, but there is a level of consistency at some point. There we go. Got to acknowledge that. Yet Jack Newton, of all people, even with the dark side, agreeing a pair of shoes were on Noah, Jack individually stood out, like how Caden Pressey stood out with his timeline. Jack Newton stands out with his timeline. He doesn't get scolded, but when Caden Pressey stands out with his timeline, he does get scolded. Double standards. Sounds like when Jack Newton changes his story or makes adjustments and sudden changes or glosses over things previous to hide other stuff and to bring back focus to new things which may or may not have happened, it's like, oh, we're not going to criticize, we're going to play it down more, or we might try and acknowledge it and more reasoning. Seems a little bit one-sided. If you're going to criticize one for changing, criticize the other for changing. If you're going to be lenient for one changing, lenient for the other. So some have scolded Caden, but they haven't questioned Jack. Could be down to a conflict of interest. But besides the shoe thing suddenly changing out of nowhere, even though the official or top said, pair of mismatched shoes, Jack says the other. Weird. Jack also mentioned out of nowhere, oh, it was Logan that Noah went to try and sleep in her room. Didn't work out, but still, that's a new detail we never heard of before. Wow, why only mention now? Why now? And I don't mean now as in right now, but, you know, months before when the interview took place, which was still fresh. And then the addition of, oh no, it wasn't Jack, it wasn't myself that saw Noah walk off east towards the highway, even though I mentioned that in the past and possibly in the People article. No, it was actually Logan Jernigan instead. Wow, why was it not mentioned back then? Why was it so difficult Why was it so bloody difficult to determine who was the last person to see Noah walk away in what direction? Either it was Jack, it was Avery, or it was Logan. At one point, Jack said himself he was the last person, but then individually you had, I think, Jasmine Millan, or it'd been re-quoted by one of the family members of Noah Presgrove or someone online, but it was Jasmine Millan that made a reference to Avery being the last person to see Noah walk off, or it was Logan. At the end of the day, it sounded like a new detail had been added to gloss over the actual timing of the argument between Jack and Noah one final time, never acknowledged by Jack after, only replaced with the Logan situation. So that's very interesting. And furthermore, at the end of the day, whether it be Jack, whether it be, or more so, whether it be Avery or Logan, doesn't matter. Both are relevant because in a short space of time from when Noah walks away, and one of those, or if not all, last people to see Noah walk away, it ties in with the supposed bedroom debacle and rejection, whether it be going to Logan's room first, being rejected, then Avery's, or the other way around, then walking away, and at the time calling Avery a fat beeb, causing possible triggering reactions, being chased out, as it was worded, Avery chasing Noah, Logan may be joining in or wondering what the arguments are, or the noise, and following Noah, wondering what the hell's going on. But nobody decided to record it. That's interesting. Right, a lot has been talked about today, or should I say tonight. There's a bit of crossover in between. Hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. There might be more to talk about, but I think next time I'll do more of a demonstration video. We've done a little pattern of theme just recently out of nowhere, raw, uncut type videos, which is very good. But I think the next step can be more demonstration type video, or just one at least, which I'll do next time. Setting wise, I was going to do it outside, maybe in the garden, but I don't know, there'll be too much noise and I don't want people to hear me, right? So I might do it in here, but just to forget about the room itself, how it looks visually, but just focusing on the actual theme and the importance behind it, whilst maybe applying it to the maps. And maybe what I could do, I've not done it enough, like a diagram or a photo, or draw onto a photo of like an arrow here or a circle there along the lines of that. Because, you know, like when I said, if you zoom in close enough, you find an anomaly, zoom out, pick the next anomaly or one that links together, then zoom back out for the full picture and truly work out and determine, is it really that big of a deal? Is it that strange? Is it that odd? Then you'll know. So my name's Warlight Raf. Be sure to hit the like button, share this video, and hopefully it spreads awareness. I'll see you next time. That's it for now. Goodbye and good night.